Ladies and gentlemen, good day and welcome to Hindustan Petroleum Corporation Limited post-results conference call hosted by Macquarie Capital. As a reminder, all participant lines will be in listen-only mode. There will be an opportunity for you to ask questions after the presentation concludes. Should you need assistance during the conference call, please signal an operator by pressing star and 0 on your touchtone phone. Please note that this conference is being recorded. I now hand the conference over to Mr. Aditya Suresh, Head of Research, India from Macquarie Capital Securities. Thank you, and over to you, sir.
Thank you. Good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to this HPCL post-results conference call hosted by Macquarie. HPCL management is represented by Mr. Mukesh Kumar Surana, Chairman and Managing Director, Mr. Rajneesh Sarang, Chief Financial Officer, as well as other members of the finance team at HPCL. With that, I'd like to hand over the floor to Surana, sir, to take it over. Thank you.
Thank you, Aditya. I am Surana and CNMD HPCL. With me, we have got our CFO, Mr. Rajneesh Sarang, and some of my other friends here. First of all, a very good evening to all of you, and thanks for taking time to join this post-result conference call. Because today is the start of the Diwali season, so wish very happy Diwali to all of you. A very happy Dassaras, and I wish that the coming year is happy, cheerful, and prosperous for all of you and your near dear ones. During the second quarter of this year, for the quarter ended September 30, HPCL has posted a profit of 1,924 crore versus 1,795 crore in the first quarter. So it shows a growth of 7.2% over the previous quarter. For the period April to September, the profit is 3,719 crore. The gross sales for the quarter is 87,311 crore versus 61,340 crore in the same period last year. The sales during the half year ended September is 1,64,619 crore versus 1,07,225 crore in the previous year. This domestic sales volume is 8.79 million metric ton against 8.10 million metric ton in the previous the same quarter of the previous year, which shows a growth of 8%. In the half year, which is completed on September 21, the sales volume is 17.24 million metric ton, which is with a 12% growth on the same period last year. The growth of ATF is 63%, MS is 23%, HSD is 15%, and LPG is 4% for the half year compared to the last year. Our Mumbai refinery has taken a shutdown. Before I come to this, a larger context on the overall demand scenario. The October month petrol demand was 5.83% higher than September. It was 8.16% higher than the pre-pandemic period. The diesel demand was 20% higher than September and 1.27% higher than the pre-pandemic period. LPG was 15.87% higher than September and 6.04% higher than September and 6.58% higher than the pre-pandemic period. ATF has reached to 65% of the pre-pandemic period, and compared to September, it recorded a growth of 15%. 15.8%. So good demand recovery in all the products, and with the more and more opening of the aviation sector, the aviation demand has also started picking up, which was the case earlier. And with the industrial demand going to be coming up now, which is also shown with some of the activities which are some of the indicators like the PMI has picked up to 55.9 in October compared to 53.7 in September. The 8 core industrial output has increased in September by 4.4%. And with the enhanced vaccination, the possibility or the intensity of the third wave is receding. Then the festive season coming, winter season coming, and the agricultural season coming up. It is expected that the diesel demand should also pick up. And petrol demand has already been above the pre-pandemic level. It was 7 to 8% higher and continues to be so because of the personal preferences of the people in driving, using more personal vehicles. So overall demand is already picking up. As far as the crude oil scenario is concerned, the crude oil continued to be higher in 80 to 85 range in the recent time, even spiking above 85. And OPEC Plus restricting their additional supplies to 400,000 barrels per month. And as of today, there are no signs, unless there is some further decision in the next month meeting, that is 4th November meeting, which looks unlikely. In that case, the demand pickup is faster than the supply release, which is keeping the crude prices tight right now. Additional factors which impacted the crude prices were the hurricane Ida in Gulf of Mexico. Also, there was some disruption in the crude pipeline in Libya. Some of the OPEC Plus countries, even though quota is there, not being able to ramp up their production, leading to over-compliance to OPEC Plus restrictions. And the US additional shale production also taking some time to ramp up. As a result, the inventories have fast soaked up, and there is a demand-supply gap getting created. Rather, the pace of demand pickup is much faster than the pace of the supply picking up. Parallelly, it so happened that the other commodities like coal and gas also, the prices went up sharply, and some gas to oil switch or coal to gas or oil switch up also happened, leading to additional demand of around 500,000 barrels of crude. All this led to the higher crude prices. The similar pattern was seen that the cracks were better, with the diesel cracks running into $12 to $13. Petrol cracks also got into 12, 13, up to even $15 in between. FO cracks were also better. LPG cracks were better. So the product cracks improved generally, again by the similar phenomena of pickup in demand, and some of the refineries which were shut down in between did not pick up. Also, some of the naphtha and LPG going as input to petrochemical feedstock, where the petrochemical demand was also high. So led to robust GRM, Singapore GRM, on the benchmark thing. And the Singapore GRM in almost started touching to $7, $8 currently. With this overall scenario, there was also a parallel narration on the energy transition with the COP26 right now currently going on, and yesterday there is some announcement by Honorable Prime Minister also on Panchamrit, which narrates about a net zero by 2070 and increasing the non-fossil power generation to 500 megawatt and reducing the overall carbon release, and 50% of the energy by renewable by 2030, and reduction in emission by 1 billion ton by carbon emission by 1 billion ton by 2030, and reduction in emission intensity of the GDP by 45% by 2030. So there are 5 tenants which he has mentioned. So in this scenario, this is a broader scenario. But I thought that it will be important for all the audience to know. Now, on this background, coming back to HPCL, as you are aware, HPCL did take a shutdown of Mumbai Refinery in April to complete one of its most complex revamp which I have seen in India or even overseas also. To complete that revamp and hookup jobs, we had taken a shutdown in April. The good part is we could take the shutdown when the demand was low and the margins were also low. But because the corona second wave also came during the same time, there was a little bit of spillover. But I'm happy to share that we have completed that shutdown and the units have started. And I'm also happy to share that even during the second wave of corona, where there were restriction of even the industrial oxygen use, still we managed to complete this shutdown by using some of the new novel methods for doing the job, like we use the water jet cutting, we use the plasma cutting instead of oxyacetylene cutting. And in spite of having 16 to 18,000 workers at site, in spite of the severe second corona, we didn't lose any life on that. And all the workers and workforce were employed with full production and the jobs were completed. It did have some impact on the schedule, but we did complete the shutdown. I'm also happy to share that it included almost 2 new units, 6 units revamp, a new tank farm, this whole project. We have already commissioned CDU-VDU and we have also tested the full 100% capacity of CDU-VDU. There were downstream units which were revamped, 6 units, and were commissioned one by one and are in the stabilization phase. And as of today, we are running Mumbai Refinery as around 80% capacity. Vizag Refinery had one incident of fire in one of the CDU in May, but we have completed the repair and maintenance job of that unit also. And as of now, Vizag Refinery is running at more than 100% of the capacity. Overall, put together, HPCL refineries are at more than 100% capacity, with Vizag operating at more than its design capacity. And Mumbai Refinery, as I mentioned to you, we have tested the units to its capacity, but just to ensure that all the subsidiary units, which are also mostly commissioned, with the last unit getting stabilized and which will be getting completed in this month. So with that, we would be through with this Mumbai Refinery shutdown. But it did had impact on our total throughput, and so we clocked a throughput of 5.04 million metric ton in H1, in spite of both these shutdowns. The refinery GRM was $2.44 per barrel in this quarter, and overall in this half year it was $2.87 per barrel compared to $2.58 per barrel for the same corresponding period previous. The GRMs were helped by the better product cracks, but were impacted because of the higher fuel and loss, because during the shutdown, startup and stabilization, you will have higher fuel and loss component. So there was an impact on the GRM because of that. The second part is because the crude prices were high, the fuel and loss component is also priced at a higher price, and that also had an impact. So that is the reason that some people might have found that the GRM of ours was lower than what it could have been or it should have been. But there is a plain simple reason because of that. The overall profits were lesser because, as I mentioned to you, our 1 unit in Vizag and 1 unit in Mumbai were in shutdown, and it started and then it was in commissioning phase. So we had lower throughput. To that extent, we didn't get the benefit of GRM for those volumes. And the second part, which I mentioned to you, that during the stabilization, shutdown, and startup phase, there is a higher fuel and loss. To that extent, we did get an impact on the overall profit. But while it may appear that it's a low profit, I just wish to mention that this is the highest second quarter profit of HPCL and that's in spite of this refinery shutdown, and also because the last year the same quarter we did much better than others, and there were some industrial products which are directly correlated to the supplies from the refineries like bitumen and lubes, which did get impacted because of the shutdown in the refinery. But in the October month, we have picked up again the volumes on those products again as the refineries have started producing to their capacities. Now, during the period, we have also commissioned 440 new retail outlets, taking the total retail network to 19,216. We have commissioned 135 retail outlets with CNG facilities. With this, we have got total 809 outlets with CNG facilities now, and EV charging facilities have been commissioned at 327 stations as of now, and mobile dispensers are provided with 487. You are also maybe aware that we launched our non-fuel retail store under the brand name Happy Store during the quarter, and we are happy to state that we will be starting up more such happy shops in the time to come, and in some of the major cities. For the high-end vehicles, we also launched ultra premium grade petrol with octane rating of 100. And I'm not sure how many of you are aware that HPCL has got a wallet called HP Pay, and it has been doing quite well with more and more people joining that. Additionally, we also has enabled a co-branded card with ICICI, along with integration to FASTag and the loyalty program of Drive Truck Plus. During the quarter, HPCL did the highest blending percentage of ethanol. We achieved 8.96% ethanol blending, which is the highest in the industry. And we are doing ethanol blending in all the states and union territories of India, with Sikkim also getting added in the last quarter. On the CBG front, now we have issued LOIs to around 227 entrepreneurs with a production capacity of 466,000 metric ton per annum of CBG, which will be used in CNG stations. I'm also happy to share that our R&D center at Bangalore has received 110 patents in last 5 years, and which makes it one of the fastest growing R&D in India. And they are working on various processes, new energy resources, chemicals, catalysts, and some of their products are also taken to a commercial stage. During the quarter, we have also commissioned a new LPG plant in Assam at Golpada and a new aviation facility at Roopsi in Assam. Our other expansion project, that is HPCL Vizag Refinery Modernization Project, is advancing well, and we hope to complete it in this financial year, except the bottom upgradation unit, which will be completed next year. Our Rajasthan Refinery project is also going well, and we hope to complete it in the financial year 23-24, by end of financial 23-24. Chara LNG regasification terminal, which, as you are aware, we took over 50% of Shapoorji Pallonji's stake, and that has been renamed as HPCL LNG Limited. That is also progressing well. Our Vijayawada Dharmpuri pipeline, Hasan Challapalli pipeline, Barmer Palanpur product pipeline, and Mangalore LPG cover, all these projects are either running on schedule or ahead of schedule, and we hope to complete it quickly. Our 2G ethanol plant in Bhatinda and 1G gas CBG plant in Badayu are also under construction. So overall, this is the narration. I thought that I'll put it from my side, and I'm open to questions now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We will now begin the question and answer session. Anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and one on their touchtone telephone. If you wish to remove yourself from the question queue, you may press star and two. Participants are requested to use handsets while asking a question. Ladies and gentlemen, you may enter star and one to ask a question. We will wait for the questions to assemble. The first question is from the line of Avadhoot Sabnis from InCred Capital. Please go ahead.
Sir, your main projects at both Mumbai Refinery and Vizag Refinery, the two main expansions are sort of nearly close to completion. Is there any further large projects planned at both the refineries which you could start work on once this is done?
No, as of today, we are focused on completing this project. Mumbai Refinery expansion project is almost getting completed, with the last units will get stabilized during this month. And Vizag Refinery is in advanced stages. We are looking at certain future projects on the lube site in Mumbai Refinery. In Vizag Refinery, we have not planned anything right now. And Rajasthan Refinery, if at all, we will look something downstream petrochemicals, but first we'll complete the project which is on hand. So on the refinery side, if at all the project comes, it can be more towards green hydrogen or renewables or specialty chemicals or petrochemicals. That's the way I see, not on the main fuel side.
Great. The second question, sir, is more sort of bookkeeping. If I look at the first and second quarter sort of interest costs of 254 crores in first quarter and 155 crores in second quarter, could you share what was the interest capitalized in quarter one and quarter two, and also what was the forex element in that interest cost in quarter one and quarter two?
You have here? Yeah, just a minute. I will give you. In the meantime, if you can take the next question, I will give you, but be in the call. I'll mention it.
Sure. So the last question was, could you refresh us now on the overall capex for FY22 and 23 in terms of the overall number, how much is on balance sheet, how much is JV, and if at possible clarity on refining, marketing, etc.
So 21-22 or 22-23 you're talking about?
Both, sir, please.
Okay. So in the year 21-22, we have got a plan to have around 14,500 crore of capex, and next year will also be almost similar one. Now, which includes our capex on our own balance sheet as well as our equity contribution to JV projects, in which mainly it will be Rajasthan Refinery project where we will have the equity contribution. Otherwise, the other JV projects we would have already made that contribution in this year itself. Now, on the overall basis, if you see the bifurcation of the capex, it will be around out of 14,000 odd crore, it will be around 6,000 crore around refinery and around 5,000 crore on marketing and around 3,000 crore towards the CNG and 2G and 1G, that type of thing.
So in both years, what would be the JV? What is not on your balance sheet? What would be sort of a JV contribution number?
So as far as basically as far as JVs are concerned, the main thing will be Rajasthan Refinery. Our JV means I will include the subsidiaries also. So
no, what I meant is, I just see basically whatever will come in terms of investments rather than in terms of fixed assets. I'm trying to see that bifurcation.
Yeah, so as far as subsidiaries and JVs are concerned, that will not come as a fixed asset. That will come as an investment only, whether it is subsidiary or JV, either way. So that so this is interest wala. No, JV investment. JV investment this year. Just a minute. 1,300. So in this year, as of now, we have already made an investment of 1,300 crore in JVs and subsidiaries out of the total capex of 6,400 crore, which we have done till September. So in this year, we will have around 2,500 crore in the JVs. And the next year may have similar amount almost. Now, as far as the does it answer your question?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Just the previous question regarding the capitalized interest, which somebody has asked earlier. The current year we have capitalized around 635 crore of interest, and the earlier was around 264 crore. And the foreign exchange capitalization in the current year is around 135 crore, and last year was around 35 crore. Yeah.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank
I'll join the queue.
Sure. Thank you. The next question is from the line of Mayank Maheshwari from Morgan Stanley. Please go ahead.
Sir, a few questions on if you can help us around HMEL, as well as, like you talked about the completion of Rajasthan refinery by fiscal 24. Can you just also help us understand the progress of how much is completed on that front, what percentage of capex is spent? And on the HMEL upgrade as well, if you can just give us a idea of what's happening there and where is the progress around the expansion there.
As far as HMEL petrochemical complex is concerned, that is in very advanced stage. We are almost 98% complete, and we are hoping to commission it by this financial year end. As far as this Rajasthan refinery is concerned, we are almost around 35% on the physical progress, and we have spent around 13,000 crore on that already.
Got it, sir. Then the second question is more related to this entire strategy around renewables. You did mention about the Prime Minister's commitment earlier. So in terms of when you are looking at your next year's capex, is there something that is changing in the mix of the total capex, or that is still largely focused on the refinery and the marketing side?
No, actually, our capex mix already had a portion which is aligned to this the energy transition, in the sense that we had already earlier itself I mentioned that we are going to have 5,000 EV stations in the next 3 to 4 years. We did mention the LNG terminal, which is already in progress, which is a low carbon fuel and a bridge fuel in the time the newer energy comes. And we did already had the approved projects for 2G and 1G ethanol and the CBG projects. So as far as our product mix was concerned, or the capital project mix was concerned, we already had a portion and of the newer sources of energy, the renewable part of the energy. And we are, to that extent, we are not required to make a substantial change to it, except that we are also working now on green hydrogen part, and we are already trying to put up, or we will be putting up a 370 ton per annum capacity pilot green hydrogen plant in Vizag refinery, which we expect to commission by December 22. So that we already have a first-hand experience of operating the green hydrogen plant. And I am also happy to mention that, in fact, our R&D center, Bengaluru, which uses hydrogen for various processes, since last 1 year, it is using only the green hydrogen, which is electrolyzer based, and using the renewable power. In addition, we also got 101 megawatt of windmills and number of solar capacities at various parts in the country, and 66 megawatts of solar capacity. And we are also further looking at that space, because both Vizag refinery expansion project and Rajasthan refinery has got the power which is sourced from the grid, and we have got an opportunity both in terms of environment as well as the cost in optimizing the same by using the renewable power. And we are working on that very closely to find out various models to ensure that how to get the round-the-clock, uninterrupted, renewable power for refinery type of operations, and where various models are being discussed on that.
This is excellent, sir. Thank you for this detailed answer.
Yeah.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Varatharajan Sivasankaran from Antique Limited. Please proceed.
Thanks for the opportunity, sir. Can you hear me?
Yeah, please. Hello.
I wanted to understand, given the low throughput and because there was maintenance shutdown, was the inventory carried in the system for crude very low?
Your voice is breaking in between. Can you adjust your mic a little bit?
Is this better, sir?
Yeah.
So, given that there was a shutdown, and were you carrying very low inventory of crude, sir, through the quarter, or would you be able to give us an idea of how low?
If I understood correctly, because there was a voice breakage, you are saying that inventory of crude, is that correct?
That's right.
So actually, you might be aware that we own a part of the K1 in Vizag refinery, the 0.33 million metric ton of K1 space HPCL owns. Rather, we are the only company who has got a part of the K1 which we own. But apart from that, we do get constrained by the storage spaces at both the refineries. So to that extent, we do carry the inventory which is required, and it is not directly related to shutdown or not the shutdown. But yes, we do have, as of September end, around 1,400,000 metric ton of crude inventory in hand or in transit, which is slightly more than the earlier time.
Fair enough, sir. Thanks, sir.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Maulik Patel from Equirus Securities. Please go ahead.
Thanks for the opportunity. So a few questions. One, can you just mention the timeline for the Chhara LNG terminal?
So we are hoping to complete in the financial year 22-23.
Okay. And what would be any capacity which is contracted, or what could be the business model of the LNG terminal, that you will bring the LNG on your own and sell in the market?
Yes, actually we are doing already LNG business. We are contracting and we are selling also to fertilizer industries for our own consumption in the refineries. Like Mumbai refinery does use the RLNG for its consumption, for both production of hydrogen as well as for its boilers and furnaces, etc. So we have got a group which is we got a full dedicated group for sourcing LNG. We are not contracted long term so far on this, but we will be doing it. As far as the terminal is concerned, right now we own it fully, because we have got our own consumption. We have got a CGD business in 20 geographical areas. So, but we'll see in future if we need to contract out the gasification capacities to somebody else. We had been getting the inquiries on that, but we have not taken a call that whether we retain it ourselves or we contract it out, the part of it, because we do consider that it is gas and petrochemical is one of the future drivers in the time to come, and gas is going to be a bridge fuel between the fossil fuel to the renewable ones, and there is a focus on increasing the penetration of gas from 6% to 15%. So gas is an important element in this whole thing, and we would like ourselves to be having in each stage of the value chain of gas, which includes the sourcing of LNG, gasification, CGD, LNG supply, LNG as a transportation fuel. So we will like to have our space in all this.
Great, sir. Thanks.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of S. Ramesh from Nirmal Bang. Please go ahead.
Good evening and thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the first thought is, since you mentioned your interest in reviving the non-fuel retailing, can you shed some light in terms of what is the potential gross transaction value you can achieve, say, in the next 2 years, and what kind of net margin you can earn, because that's a business which has a lot of potential. Can you share some light on that?
Right now, I would refrain from giving too much details on that because we are working on that model. We already started one and we will be starting more. So I think maybe after 6 months, I think I will like to give a bit more detail on this particular part of it. But the only thing I can share that right now we started one, but we plan to start around 10 in this financial year and take it to 100 in next 2 to 3 years.
100
it is we are looking at this very intensely. We do consider it to be a growth driver, and we are working on various models of operation of this this non-fuel retail. So
Okay.
I'll share more details in future on this. But
that would be great. The second thought is, in terms of your plans on the CGD side, can you share some light in terms of what is the kind of volume ramp up we can expect in your geographic areas, and when you will start seeing that being incorporated in your P&L on your standalone and the JVs?
No, right now, whatever we are selling, it is already there, a part of our P&L. And as far as JVs are concerned, it comes in the form of a dividend. Otherwise, it is in the P&L of the JVs. But the CGDs which we are doing on our own, it is already a part of the P&L. But
how
of
much-
course, there is a volume is slowly ramping up. So, for example, in recently the Jind Sonipat which we started, we did almost 1,041 metric ton in this quarter itself, or even UP and Uttarakhand, which we very recently started, we had done around 2,284 metric ton in this quarter itself.
So if you can just give us an overall
This is for the
aggregate.
CGD, but apart from that, the industrial also we have done around 5 parcels of LNG we got. 118,000 metric ton of LNG we have supplied to fertilizer industry in this quarter.
So just to put this in perspective, can you share us the aggregate city gas volumes you're handling now, and what is the kind of contributions making to your profits, and how do you see that progressing, say, in the next couple of years?
So as I mentioned to you that because we are not reporting the segment-wide profitability, so that I won't be able to share with you because we had not been doing that, where the CNG profitability is reported separately. So till we adopt or decide to adopt anything like that, that I won't be able to share. But I can only mention that we have got around 20 geographical areas where we have got the authorization in 9 states, which includes UP, Uttarakhand, Maharashtra, Haryana, Gujarat, and Bengal also. And there we had been, and even Ahmedabad we had, before this PNGRB authorization came, we had an authorization for supply of CNG. So there, as the various jobs for laying the trunk lines, etc., while we already started the CNG sales by commissioning the facilities there, and which I mentioned to you the number of CNG stations we have given. But by 2025, we'll have around 5,300 outlets which will be dispensing CNG. That is our perspective plan. And therefore, the CNG volume will get ramped up. We think that after commissioning of the LNG terminal, we'll have around 10% of our volume in weight basis coming from LNG and CNG. That will be
Okay, fair
around
enough.
5 million metric ton.
Yeah, if I might just squeeze in a last thought. pretty much all refineries are talking about integrating downstream in petrochemicals. So is there a risk that we will possibly see an overcapacity? And how do you see the prospects for your own petrochemical plants, considering that overcapacity could be looming large, say, in the next couple of years? What is your reading on that?
So when we take up the project, we do that all. Consider the long-term demand supply, international demand supply, Indian demand supply, local, even the areas in which we are setting up the facility, all that is done before we take up a project. And we have recently redone that exercise again as a part of some other things which we are looking at. And therefore, we are very confident of the product mix which we have got to be able to market it profitably. And so we don't see a concern on that. The second part is, as you are already aware, the per capita consumption, petrochemical consumption of petrochemicals in India is almost 1/3 of the international standard. With the smart cities coming up, with the new age society, so to call, which is more upwardly mobile, the demand of petrochemical is going to go up substantially, and the country will need the capacity for petrochemicals. And therefore, the type of product mix which we have got, we are very sure of marketing. And the second part is that as far as petrochemical is concerned, there are the range of use is evolving every day. So while the petrochemical started with plastic boxes and all, and they have migrated to even the industrial parts like pump shafts, etc. And now even the artifacts and even some of the things which we could have never thought to be made out of petrochemicals. So the use of petrochemical is a constantly evolving thing. In fact, to share with you, we have recently commissioned a full-fledged lab in our R&D center dedicated only to petrochemicals, because petrochemical is also a business where you can modulate your product suiting to the customer's requirement, and which can give an USP to us.
Thank you very much, Surana ji. Wish you and your team a very happy Diwali. Take care. God bless. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Vidyadhar Jinde from ICICI Securities. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. My first question is on if you could give us some guidance on likely utilization of both your refineries put together in second half of this year, and what could one expect as the throughput or utilization in FY23, and when do you see the benefit of the Vizag refinery expansion in terms of capacity coming in and in terms of the bottom upgradation coming in?
So as far as HPCL is concerned, even with all this expansion, we'll be short of the refining capacity compared to what we are marketing. So we are marketing around, let's say, pre-pandemic 2019, we were marketing a volume of around 39 million ton. Because of pandemic last year, we did 36. And if we reach to pre-pandemic this year, it may be around that. But let's assume that we are somewhere in the range of 36 to 40 as of today. And every year, even if you consider 3 to 4% growth, it adds up around 1.5 million ton additional to that. Now, along with all our expansion, including the Rajasthan refinery, we'll have a capacity, including HMEL also, we'll have a capacity of around 45 million ton. Out of 45 million ton, around 5 million ton is petrochemical between HMEL and Rajasthan refinery put together. So it leaves us with 40 million ton. Now the 40 million ton is the total products, but there is a fuel and loss also component which is required to run the refinery. So even we assume 7 or 8%, so we'll still be having less product manufactured by us compared to what we are marketing. Even there is zero growth. So as far as HPCL is concerned, we are in a unique position where we won't have a situation, at least in quite some time to come, where we have the idle capacity on the refinery. That's the first part. The second part is as far as the projects which are concerned, Mumbai Refinery, I mentioned to you that in the last quarter, we should be seeing the full 100% of the capacity of Mumbai Refinery. Even assuming that I did mention that we will be able to stabilize all the units in this month itself, but even if conservative, I take even next month, the last quarter, we should definitely see 100% of the capacity of Mumbai Refinery, because the main CDO video we already tested up to 100 in the meantime when we were trying to stabilize the other units. As far as Vizag Refinery is concerned, we will start commissioning this unit in the last quarter of this year. We are hoping to complete by December and start commissioning it. So considering the stabilization, etc., we should see some throughput may come in the last quarter, but otherwise next year, first quarter, we should see a reasonable part of that coming, and second quarter onwards, we should definitely see the full volume of it coming. As far as the bottom upgradation is concerned, I would say that we should see the benefit of in the fourth quarter of FY 22-23.
Okay, thank you. So the second question I have.
One thing which I can mention more,
yeah, please.
that while I said that we should see in the fourth quarter the full benefit of it, I also mentioned that we are stabilizing this month. I also mentioned that in the last quarter we did get, because of the shutdown and stabilization. But I can also mention that because the downstream units were getting stabilized and the primary units were already commissioned, we do have the intermediate inventories, which the benefit of that may accrue in the next quarters.
Thank you, sir. My second question was on the CNG part. I somewhat missed out the exact date. You did mention that you are planning to dispense CNG through 5,300 outlets. When was this, you said?
2025. By 2025.
24-25. Okay. So the other related thing I just...
Means it will be slow and gradual. Means we are already having around 800 outlets right now. And we are adding at a fast pace. But we have factored in that at least 5,000 outlets we will be doing it by 25.
So will most of these outlets be along highways, or are you factoring in any CNG dispensing done by you in big cities where there has been some regulation out last year of allowing competition even in existing areas, though we don't know how that's going to pan out. But are you factoring in dispensing some CNG through your own outlets, even in cities like Mumbai, Delhi and all, or not really?
So there are two parts. We are already dispensing CNG from our outlets even in Mumbai, Delhi. So there are two parts of it. One thing is you having an authorization, and second, you're dispensing CNG from your petrol pumps. So that way there is no bar on dispensing CNG from your outlets, and that we are doing all over India, including Mumbai, Delhi, everywhere. Now, somewhere when you got authorization, then the supply of CNG is also done by us. So the areas where PNGRB authorizes us, the supplying of CNG to any pipeline or petrol pump is also our part. But if we are not having the authorized, then we take the CNG from the person who is authorized and then we sell through our outlets, and for that we get a margin of it. So in the first case, when you have the authorization and if you are supplying through your own petrol pumps, you will have the margin for both, for supplying also and for selling also. But there also you can supply to somebody else's also. In that case, you will get only margin for supply. Now in the third case, if you are not authorized in that area, then you will be taking from somebody, then you will get the margin for the selling. So there are three areas, and that's the way it works.
Lastly, in this context, the CGD companies have been telling us that there is that although OMCs have asked the CGD players to give them enhanced commissions on CNG, and that matter is pending. So how do you see this matter ending, and when do you expect that matter to end? From what I understand.
The question is when we allow CNG facilities to be installed at our petrol pumps, there is a space which it occupies, and the space is costly. So the question is that there has to be a share of the margin and the cost between the CGD entity as well as the OMCs. And there is a formula on which speaking earlier. Now the cost has gone up, so there has to be share on the cost by the both. And there is a discussion, so there are business discussion which goes in any two partners who do the business. So that we will resolve among ourselves.
So do you expect a resolution in the next few months, or is it going to get?
It will get resolved. Business works with the business paradigm, and there will be interest on both the sides to get it resolved.
Thank you, sir. Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I now hand the conference over to the management for closing comments.
So first of all, my thanks to all the people for joining it, taking time out on a Dhanteras day. I'm sure that all of you, if you are not joining already from home, then you'll be eager to get back home. And if you are joining from home, you must be getting the follow-up call to close the call. So without taking much of time, I wish all of you a very happy Diwali, Dhanteras. Let this Diwali bring all the cheers and happiness and prosperity to all of you and your companies and your families and you as an individual. As far as HPCL is concerned, we'll continue to do whatever we can to ensure that we create value for our stakeholders. I already mentioned to you that we had taken a number of actions in the past to increase our capacity, to add our portfolio, to add new products to our portfolio, to expand our portfolio, to de-risk our business, to have new business models, to have better capital allocation, improve capital efficiency, improve the funding capacity and funding efficiency. In addition to all our new projects, will bring the more optimization in cost, energy, intensity, and we are closely working on also ensuring that we are a part of this, the total energy transition. I still think that while all the newer form of energies will help us in catering to the increasing demand of the energy, but still oil will continue to find a prominent part for some time to come. And the requirement would be that we traverse this path such that there is no disruption and the common man continues to get the requirement of his energy fulfilled. At the same time, we try to find the newer ways of providing that energy, which is more environment friendly and less carbon intensive. And HPCL will continue to work on that. We have already taken certain steps, and we will continue to do more to ensure that we are continuing to provide and fulfill the need of the energy requirement of the country, and in the most efficient, cost-effective, convenient, economical, and environment-friendly and sustainable manner. We are also closely working on the non-fuel part, which I mentioned to you, and that will also provide the additional growth drivers for the company, in addition to petchem and gas, which is the thing where HPCL has already taken the.
तुम्ही ज्या व्यक्तीशी बोलत आहात त्याने तुमच्या कॉलला होल्डवर ठेवला आहे.
So with this, I close this call. Thank you very much to Macquarie Adit, to you for hosting this call, and all the people, all the investors who had been so supportive to HPCL always, and we continue to look forward to your constant support and guidance and advices from time to time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. On behalf of Macquarie, that concludes this conference. Thank you for joining us, and you may now disconnect your